Hello, Enchanted Awakening.
Hey guys, how are you? And ladies and gentlemen and
everyone
pets
else.
and goats, and I hope you're doing well.
Yes, this is our favorite night of the week where we get to come on and do our retreat and do a little training and chat with you all. So as you come on, we came on a minute or two early to give everyone a chance to find us. Because sometimes I know that people don't get their notifications right away. So as you find us, let us know you're here. Say hi. So we can say hi back.
And I'm trying to get to our group so I can find us here and say hello.
There's at least 2 people here that have already found us. There we are.
There we are.
Well, who's here?
Katie's here.
Hi, Katie.
Hello, Katie.
How are you? Good to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Who else is here?
Somebody is
I'm
here.
going to share this with our group. I'm going to copy the link. And I'm going to go to our little thing.
That's not it.
That's not it.
There it is. So who else is here? There's now 3 people. So say hi. Let us know you're here. We always like to be able to say hi to you.
Yes, indeedy.
Tonight we're going to be continuing our ongoing conversation about boundaries.
Katie's currently fighting COVID, but over the worst of it. Good luck.
Oh, glad you're over the worst of it.
I've got to go back to taking my elderberry syrup every day. Does the body good.
It does. Stephanie made it.
2 tablespoons of elderberry syrup keeps you out of the COVID quagmire.
Let's hope.
I hope so. Hey, Jill.
Who else is here?
Say
Hi,
hello.
Cassia.
Hey, Cassia.
Good to see you. Good to see you all.
So let's refresh a little bit about what are boundaries.
What are boundaries?
What are they?
Well, it's kind of rules that you live by of what's okay and what's not okay with you.
Yeah. Inside and outside.
Right.
I'd like to,
Hi, Rebecca.
Hey, Rebecca. I think we often talk about boundaries between people.
Yes.
And I've really started to talk about like our own internal boundaries in the past year, because so often the people I work with, like in my therapy practice, they're not setting their own boundaries. They're letting themselves get away with anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like they say, I'm going to do my homework this week. And they come back, I didn't do any homework.
Right. Or people talk about, wanting to get healthy and I'm going to change my diet, and they eat well for one day.
Right.
And then they don't.
Oh, it'll be okay. I'll start again tomorrow. Well, where's your rules, boundaries, and limitations?
Right. For your own self.
Yeah. One of my very favorite television shows and television personalities is Cesar Millan, the dog whisperer. And he talks about dogs needing rules, boundaries, and limitations. Well, guess what? So do we.
Mm-hmm.
We are animal first, human second.
Right.
So we're in the animal kingdom. Dogs are in the animal kingdom. And no, I'm not saying y'all are dogs, except Jill,
who works with them every day.
Yes. So she knows them well.
Yes.
And we do need water, but we need to set them for ourselves. We don't need to go outward. We don't need to go to the Constitution or the state laws. What are my internal rules?
Right. And we don't need to ask someone else what's boundaries for ourselves.
Right.
Because that's allowing someone to control us.
Right.
If they're making those rules, limitations, and boundaries for ourselves.
Right.
For you. If someone is telling you what's okay for you to do, that's not okay.
Right. But I'm thinking, it's like, did you need some law to tell you that it wasn't okay to drive drunk?
Nope.
I didn't need that. I didn't need an external law for that.
Mm-mm.
So those external laws are for people that don't know any better. Well, y'all do, because you're here listening to us.
Right.
So what do you know best for yourself?
Right.
So that's where we start. And then we say, well, if I'm going to treat myself like this, if I'm going to treat myself well, I'm not going to let that person treat me less well than me.
Right.
But isn't that the thing, though? When we're not treating ourselves well, who are we to say that you can't treat me badly? Oh, it's no worse than I'm treating me.
Right. And other people outside are like, well, you don't treat yourself well enough, so why should I?
Right. you just talked badly about yourself. I guess I can join in, right?
Right. You don't care. Why should I?
It's kind of a double standard, isn't it? So being in integrity is really figuring out what are your rules, boundaries, and limitations for yourself and how you're going to be treated.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not an easy task, but pick one area and start there.
Right.
You know, like, how do I talk to myself?
Right.
Because I'll be damned. I mean, if I was walking down the street and someone called me stupid, I'd be like, excuse me? But I'll tell you, I've probably called myself that at least twice this week, which is better than I used to, which was like twice an hour. So
right,
that's a double standard.
Right.
So I have to continue to work on cleaning up my internal act.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just my thoughts on boundaries tonight. I know it's a little bit off of subject, but it's important. It just seems to me that we're not always in integrity internally. And that life is an inside job.
Right. We can't enforce boundaries with other people if we don't treat ourselves well first.
Right. I mean, okay, let's think about it. You know, the police department. How many stories have we heard about the police department and internal problems like sexual assault among police officers? And then they're going to go arrest somebody for it? Excuse me?
Right.
That's not integrity.
Right.
I'm not dissing police departments in general, but we've seen that this is happening.
Right.
In those organizations. And then they're out there enforcing the law. Excuse me?
Right. They can break it themselves.
Come on.
Right.
That's not integrity. If we all were in integrity, we wouldn't need external laws.
Right.
I was at work this week and there's crap everywhere in my office. At the building. I mean, it's dirty. And it's like my colleagues must be leaving stuff like on the ground. And
that's okay.
And it's okay?
Yep.
You know, when I got trained, I was told that this is the standard that your car should look like. That I should have a clean car. That I should take it through the car wash once a week. That it should be vacuumed. All these things because I do home care. That is the standard they were setting for me. And I go into the counseling room at my office the other day. There's garbage on the floor. There's 2 garbage bags sitting in a corner. They've been there for 2 months.
Yeah.
Like, what in the holy hell is going on around here? These people are not in integrity.
Right.
And I'm just like looking around like, oh my God. So I'm trying to be patient. And I'm mentioning to people, hey, we need to be in integrity around here, being gentle about it. But, oh, man, it's hard. So we need to do that. Okay, done with my soapbox. I just had to say that one out loud.
How to make her feel better.
Maybe.
A little bit.
Maybe. I don't think any of my colleagues are on this thing, so I think I'm safe.
I think you're safe. All right, so let's get into how do you enforce boundaries.
Yes.
Because I know a lot of people say, okay, so I now have decided I have boundaries or I want to have boundaries, but how do I enforce them with people who I've never had boundaries with before or had very loose boundaries with before?
Because I'm terrified of conflict.
Right.
So I'm just not going to do that.
Right.
Never mind.
Right.
Never mind.
Right. So number 1, create clear and specific boundaries. Okay. So that's the first step. And we talked about that last week. You know, create the boundary. Know what the boundary is. So a well-defined boundary is easier to enforce, right? So if you need to, write down what your boundaries are so you can learn what they are and you can become familiar with them. So when it comes to having to discuss them, you've gotten used to it, you know, because as Stephanie has said before, that sometimes when you write things down, it kind of instills it in another way in your brain. You know, some people
I'm a writer.
Are good, learn things by writing. I'm not one that likes to write. I would rather read and get it in my brain that way. But for some people, write them down so you know what those boundaries are. And then it's easier to communicate it with the people that you need to communicate it with.
Yeah. It's just so helpful. And it'll help you clarify in your mind exactly what it is and give you the verbiage that you want to use.
Right. So, you know, if you practice it on your own, then when you are in a little bit of a conflict and you have to enforce a boundary, you're a little more comfortable with it because you've clarified it. You have it concise, you know exactly what it is that you need to say.
Yep. Number 2, explain your boundaries in a very straightforward way. This is really building upon number 1, isn't it? You can let someone know exactly what your boundary is and when they've crossed the line. And anytime you set a new boundary, you kind of need to communicate it and let people, but you want to be assertive and state it in clear and kind and specific terms. So, and also you need to be ready to answer questions like, why?
Or what do you mean by that?
Right.
Or,
like, okay. I can't think of an example.
Well, I mean, if all of a sudden I decided that that I'm creating a boundary that, for example, for our son, that he is not allowed to come into our room after 9 p.m. because it's time for us to go to bed.
Yes.
Now, normally he knows after 10 p.m., don't come bother us because we are doing our last bit of whatever it is to settle in and turn the lights out and go to sleep. And when he comes in the room at that time of the night, usually he's full of energy.
And he wants to chat.
So 10 o'clock, after that, no. So if we decided we were going to change it to 9 o'clock, we would have to be clear and explain to him that it's because you coming in kind of ramps us back up a little bit. So then we need a certain amount of time to settle back down so we can be ready to shut the lights out.
Yep. So
I would need to be able to explain it to him, allow him to ask questions, and just be clear as to why we're changing the boundary.
And yeah, that's a good one. I was thinking of something like that as well. Our poor kid, he gets to be the example for about a lot of our talks, don't we? He's a pretty good sport about it.
Thank God he loves us and we love him well too.
Oh, yes. All right. Number 3, and this is a good one. State the consequences for crossing the boundary. So figure out what you can realistically do when you set the boundary and know what it is and let the other person know what it is. And be really specific. Try not to avoid like saying, well, I just never talk to you again.
Right.
What was 1 and 2? Oh, Shell. Create clear and specific boundaries was number 1. And number 2 was explain the boundaries in a straightforward way. And now we're stating the consequences for crossing the boundaries. So, if we continue on the example of our son, that if he's coming into our room, he better be doing it for a really good reason, or there are going to be consequences. Like our bedtime will keep getting earlier and earlier.
Right.
Carolyn, you're such a teacher. I love you.
Yes, she is.
Yes, thank you. We always need a beautiful assistant in the audience.
Yes, thank you. So we'll let them know. The consequence is that if you continue to cross this boundary, we are going to make it an earlier time and earlier and earlier and earlier.
Yep.
And eventually he's not going to be allowed to come into our room after like 5 o'clock in the evening if he keeps it up.
Yeah.
But it's got to be clear and concise and not vague and something realistic. Like you don't want to threaten that this is going to be the consequence and it's not a consequence that you can uphold.
Right. Like if I told my parents that, or my brothers, if you behave like this towards me, I'm never going to talk to you again. It's my siblings. I'm probably going to talk to them again.
Right. So that's not really a very realistic consequence. So make sure it's realistic and making sure it fits the crossing of the boundary. I mean, if it's a minor boundary, then it's going to be a minor consequence.
Right. So like if our guy, he's got about 5 things that he needs to do every day. Some of them change. Some of them always the litter box, always the dishwasher, always the garbage, which he doesn't have to do every day. But, if he doesn't do those, we don't take his electronics away for a week.
Right. It's for the day.
It's for the rest of the day. Do it or you lose you have your consequences for today. But if this became a pattern, then we'd have to say, okay, here's the deal. If you don't do it today, you're going to lose your electronics today. If you also don't do it tomorrow, you're going to lose it for 4 days. And just, just making it clear, those are reasonable. I'm not going to take it away for a month. Right. Because then if he screws up, he's not going to do his chores for a month.
Right. He's going to be like, I lost my electronics anyway, so why should I bother doing them now?
Right. So yeah, make them good.
Yes.
All right.
4, be consistent with the boundary. So you have to enforce the boundary once you set it. So again, going on this, same example of our son not being allowed to come into our room every night after a certain time. If one day we allow him and the next day we don't, how consistent is that? And what are we teaching him? That it's okay to cross our boundary again.
Right.
That it doesn't matter. Our boundaries don't matter. So you have to be consistent with that boundary every time. If someone tries to cross it, it's like, nope, this is the boundary.
Yep.
And it must stay this way.
Do we? I don't remember the rest of it. There's a whole bunch.
Oh, yeah, there's 11 of them. The worksheet is attached to the post that I put up earlier today, stating that what the topic of the retreat was. So I will get back to doing it the proper way. I'm still kind of in recovery from my back surgery, so I'm sorry that it's a little haphazard today.
But we are so grateful that you're here.
Yes,
absolutely. We still wanted to be able to come in, but sometimes the nuts and bolts aren't getting done. But at least this part is. Right. The only thing that I will say is that it is okay to compromise on some things if it makes sense.
Right.
So like if our little guy came, and our little guy isn't that little, he's 17 and a half, but if he came and knocked on the door and said, I really need to talk to you,
I'm having a problem.
Of course we're letting him in.
Right.
So there's compromises. And sometimes, sometimes with the chores, and sometimes I can't think of any other good examples right now, but
sometimes
it's okay.
Sometimes it's okay to bend every once in a while, especially, like with our son. If it's an emergency and he's having a problem with something, or he's just had difficulty with a friend and he needs to talk to us, of course we're going to talk to him.
Yeah.
Now if it became a habit every day, then again, it's like, wait a minute, you need to come to us sooner. But it's okay every once in a while.
So what if we're in a relationship and that person sweeps our boundaries under the rug? Danger, danger, Will Robinson.
Yes, red flags, folks.
I would say go back to basics. Start with the beginning of this. Number 1, create your clear and specific boundaries. Explain those boundaries in a straightforward way. State the consequences, and then be consistent with setting them and what the consequences are going to be.
Yep.
It's really hard.
It is. When
Shell says, that's why I'm single again. Right?
Right.
Sometimes we have to get pretty tough.
Yeah. Yeah. And you'll see when we get to the very last one, sometimes you have to cut off contact with people.
Yeah.
I mean, if it gets really bad, if it gets toxic.
She would tell me, you have boundaries and I don't. And so I would reply, well, that's a problem for me.
Right. Then she needs to tell you what her boundaries are.
She sounds like she doesn't even want to have them.
Right.
Well, there's probably a bigger issue going on with that person if they
don't have any boundaries.
Yeah. So what's okay and what's not okay?
Right. How are you supposed to know what's okay with someone if they...
She got mad. Well, bye, Felicia.
Yeah.
If the person does not want to be respectful of you, are you going to keep hanging out?
Right. How much are you going to tolerate?
We went through, and I'm going to use our little guy again. We got to a point where he was playing king of the castle, and we had let him get away with it way too long. And when he was 10, it wasn't a big deal. Mm-hmm. But when he was 17, 16, we got into some big deals.
Right. When fists are flying into walls.
Yeah.
Not good.
Yeah. So, Carolyn is going to make a good point here. I go back to some people haven't been able to have boundaries in their lifetime. So it's a process to learn to put boundaries in place, but they are so necessary. Absolutely. So if your person has no boundaries and they're willing to learn and they're willing to work with you and you can work together. I mean, Jennifer and I used to have really crappy boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
We learn. We actually coach each other on boundaries now
Mm-hmm.
because like we might get a little squishy with them. And I'm like, boundary? Not with each other so much, but with other people. We're pretty clear with each other now. We've set that up pretty well. But when other people, it's like, I don't know. Is that the line that you really want to draw on that?
Right.
Is that in the right spot?
Right.
And so we can talk it out and help each other through it. So if that person's willing,
right,
to learn and set boundaries and be respectful of your boundaries, then great.
Right.
But
if not, what are you willing to tolerate?
Yeah. Well, Shell, really, that sounds like it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
That, if the person was not willing and would get angry, there's something bigger than just boundaries going on.
Right.
So.
Right. And you're right. We're not necessarily taught what boundaries are as kids.
Yeah.
We have to learn them as adults because as kids, we're told, children are to be seen and not heard. So how can we express what's okay for us when we're told to be quiet?
Right. I think there are some wonderful families out there who are able to respect their kids' boundaries.
Right. And they teach these skills.
Yeah. Because I think kids actually automatically have pretty decent boundaries. Because I watch them. There's some that don't. But but a healthy little one, they know what's okay and what's not okay. And they will tell you.
Right.
Like think of a 4-year-old. 4-year-old is not going to let you mess with them.
Right.
It's like, no, not doing it. You're done with dating for now.
For now.
It's okay.
Yeah. You'll get to the point where you'll be ready again because you're going to feel like you're ready. You'll learn these skills. So stick around and learn, take it in because we're not taught these things.
Yeah.
Especially, when we come from some sort of dysfunctional family, and many of us do.
Oh, Shell, I'm going to call you out, darling. She says, it's so sad, and I feel I have come in all my relationships to help others awaken, and I'm left with a broken soul every darn time. Shell, darling, there's only one person whom you need to awaken, and you see her every day in the mirror.
Yep.
We must let ourselves off the hook for doing anything to anyone else.
Right.
If that other person wants to do their thing and we're going to collaborate on it, that's totally different, isn't it?
Right.
I had therapy this morning, and I have the most awesome therapist, and she's fantastic, and we've been doing some really amazing work. But I, too, felt that I was here to take care of everybody, to show them the way, to help them find it. And I'm really starting to be able to coexist with other people equally, 50-50, not 20-80, not 95-5. And it was either or, it was a toggle. And now it's like the freedom that I feel is just unbelievable when I can just be like, no, that's not mine.
Nope.
And I let you have it. So let's start thinking about that. I don't have to do that. And that might open up I'm a caregiver and career-wise. So am I.
Right?
Absolutely. And I had to learn how to set those boundaries because I was drowning in it too. I was so burnt out every time. I had to change jobs all the time because I was so burnt out with what I was doing. I needed to go work with another population. And it was horrible. But and I know we're going far afield here, but this is good stuff.
Go ahead.
As a caregiver, I think about the fact that all of their problems go into my crystal ball that stays outside of me. So there's the crystal ball. It's not inside me. It's outside of me. So when I feel myself getting pulled in emotionally, I imagine the crystal ball there and I lean back a little bit. So energetically, I'm not taking it into me because it's not mine. See, this visual helps me so much. Cassia, when you are doing your career, you're going to be new in it, and you're going to see stuff that you wish you didn't see.
Mm-hmm.
Put it in the crystal ball. Do your job. Let the crystal ball do the thing. You can have compassion for the crystal ball. But just do your part. It's a beautiful lesson.
Mm-hmm.
The crystal, I had that in a dream. That came to me in a dream. And it has changed my career.
And I can't take on everyone's stuff.
Right. And I think it helps with enforcing boundaries.
Yeah.
Because I don't have to take, if I set a boundary with her and say, oh, no, we're not doing that right now, I don't have to take responsibility for her feelings.
Right.
As long as I'm clear and kind.
Mm-hmm.
Clear and kind. I can say, she gets to own it. If she has feedback for me, I will take it. But I'm not taking on her emotions. They're hers. I'm not robbing her of her emotions. Think about that. Let others have theirs. You have yours. You'll feel so much lighter. All right. I'm going to stop now.
That's okay. It's important stuff.
It is. It is.
It is very important because it is not our job to awaken other people. It is our job to be an example, to awaken ourselves, be that example, shine the light, shine the love, and let people awaken on their own. And you just can be an example.
Yeah.
And they learn from you. But it's not my responsibility to create the ability for someone else to awaken.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take it on.
If I light a light in the darkness, I'm not going to hand it off to somebody else necessarily, but I'll shine the light and I'm going to show them the way. I'm not going to set them on fire. That doesn't work.
And you're not going to take in their darkness.
No. The light shines and it spreads.
Right. Let them suck in the light and help their own darkness.
Yes.
Instead of you trying to fix the darkness in them, because only they can create change in their life.
Yeah.
And that is one of the biggest lessons that I've learned in my life, is that the only person I can change is me. I had to stop trying to change everybody else because it wore me down. All I had was an empty cup.
Yep.
And you can't give from an empty cup. And now I fill my cup by awakening myself. So now I have a full cup and it can overflow to help other people.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take away from me.
Right. We can stay strong and still. All right.
Yep. All right.
Here we go. Number 5.
Let's do one more and then we'll finish the rest next week since
Sounds
we've gone
good.
so far.
Sounds good.
Because there are 11 of them, guys. I tend to go a little overboard with my worksheets.
But she loves it.
I do. I love doing this because I want to help people. And this is part of my way of doing it.
Yep. All right. Number 5, stand your ground if the person resists. People, especially if you've not set boundaries very much at all, people are going to really resist it.
Yes.
And they're going to be like, what the heck? I don't understand. They're going to be mad at you. They're going to be sad. They're going to be hurt. You don't love me?
Right.
Whether it's family member, friend, coworker, whoever it is, you still have to set your boundaries. Let them have their feelings. They're allowed to. You can hold space for their feelings, but you don't have to take responsibility for them.
Right. And that doesn't mean that you have to bend because they're a little sad or upset because now you have a boundary.
Yeah.
Because the more you stand your ground, the more likely people are going to respect those boundaries. And then when you have to set another boundary, maybe they might not react the same way.
Right.
But even if they do,
it's okay.
Stand your ground.
Right.
Kindly.
Yeah. If we can stop taking other people's stuff personally, boundaries become really pretty easy.
Right.
It just is like, no.
Right.
No.
Your reaction to my boundary is your business.
It's
and
yours.
your issue. It's not mine.
You get to own that.
Yes.
I allow you to have your feelings.
Right. And we'll discuss it if we need to.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that I'm going to change my boundary.
Yeah. I remember one of my favorite movies, it's a musical, is The Sound of Music. And towards the end of the film, I think it was towards the end of the film, Maria was talking with one of the children who was asking Maria to intervene with their father, the count, or I don't remember what his name. Gosh, it's been too long since I've seen that movie. But the father, and Maria says to her, "I can't ask him to be less than he is," because he was standing up for something that he believed in. And don't ask yourself to be less than you are. Don't compromise your truth. So that's a good one. Don't ask yourself to be less than you are.
Yeah. If it's a boundary, because it's not okay for someone to cross this situation, don't look at yourself as less than. You deserve to have that boundary.
Yeah. If you've said it, it must be important to you.
Right.
Yes. Baron Von Trapp. Thank you, Cassia.
You said the Baron.
Did I? I said no. I said Count.
Oh, you said Count.
I said Count.
Oh, well, you were close.
That's
Baron,
Transylvania.
Count, Baron, whatever you call them back then.
Yes. Whichever country they're in. So yeah, you're worth something.
You are.
And you have a boundary. I mean, your skin is your natural boundary. You have an energetic boundary. Own it.
Yes.
You're allowed. And you deserve to have it. I mean, you wouldn't want someone sitting on you. So don't let them sit on your boundaries.
Right. I mean, don't you believe that you deserve to be happy?
Other people deserve to be happy, don't they?
Right. I mean, you look outside of other people and you say, oh, I'm so happy for them.
Yes.
Look how wonderful.
Look how happy they look
how
together.
happy they are. Well, don't you deserve to be happy too?
Yeah.
You're the most important person in your world.
Yeah.
And, we haven't been raised to believe that.
Mm-mm.
And that's why we're caregivers, many of us.
Yeah.
But we have to care for this vessel first, because we can't give from an empty cup. It just wears you down.
Mm-hmm.
More and more and more.
Yeah.
So you got to fill this cup first, and that includes your boundaries.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that we're going to hoard anything or be greedy or anything like that. It's just take what you need.
Mm-hmm.
Leave the rest.
Yes. You're right, Lisa. We all deserve to be happy.
We do.
Every single human being deserves to be happy.
So don't let people step on your happiness.
Nope.
You don't have to be militant about it. You don't have to be mean about it. But own it. Own it.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. We will finish the rest of this worksheet next
in a week.
So part 2 of enforcing your boundaries will be next Thursday, folks.
Yeah, Shell, grew up in a very dysfunctional family with no love. Yep. And my darling, you are not alone. Thank you for being here. And I know that you will find the love. You're going to find it here. I know
You're going to find it here. And, I would really love to have a conversation with you about getting you into our foundations group.
Yeah.
Because that is where you're really going to find all of the good stuff.
Yeah.
And we have some amazing people in that group.
Gosh.
Many of them are here tonight talking in the chat.
Yep. Because they're amazing.
And they can tell you how amazing the program is, because we all teach each other. We all learn from each other. We help each other enforce our boundaries. It is just amazing. So I would really love to have that conversation with you to see if we can get you into our foundations program.
Yep.
I think you would love it.
Yes, I do too. Amy goes from one extreme to the other. Okay. So you know this one and you know this one. Now you just got to keep fine tuning it, Amy.
Yeah.
It's like a pendulum.
Yep.
Like our political world, we go from very liberal over to very conservative. So that's the same thing with your boundaries. Okay, I'm going to have liberal boundaries or conservative boundaries. Okay, we want to find the center aisle.
Yep.
Just step back, write them down. Do this worksheet, Amy. Create the clear and specific. Explain the boundaries. Figure out what they are. by doing this systematically, we stop going from one extreme to the other.
Right.
We stop going too far and then having to back up. Because that's what it is, right? I've been there.
Mm-hmm.
I go too far and then I've got to backpedal.
Yep.
And then I let somebody walk all over me and then I go too far again. Because I'm like, fuck this, man.
Right. No one's going to do this to me ever again.
Right.
So I'm going to have a wall as a boundary. Now.
Right. Oh, man.
Right.
Those in the program, let me hear from you because I'm dedicating this time to healing and evolving. Carolyn, Lisa, Kasia, Amy.
Speak up, folks. Let them know. Lisa already said Foundations is where it's at.
Yep. Jan's not here tonight.
But those are the folks that are here tonight. There you go. Carolyn, join. It changed her life.
And okay, we're a little biased because we've been watching it and, we're the leaders of the program and stuff. But I'll tell you what, there is nothing more joyful to us than watching y'all change.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, the changes that we see in our Foundations members.
It's breathtaking.
It is breathtaking.
Breathtaking. I mean, we talk about it all the time. We'll be laying in bed and, like, oh, did you see that person's post today? And she'll say, no, I didn't. I'm like, oh my God, you'd have been so proud. What a cool thing.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, for the value, you're not going to get anything for the value anywhere. Mm-hmm. Basically, you're getting 2 group therapy sessions a month.
And training. And
plus training. Plus giving. Oh my God, Lisa. I remember you when you started.
Lisa was just dipping her foot into dating, and now she's married.
Oh my gosh.
And she and her wife have been in Foundations as they dated and now are married.
We feel a little responsible for their marriage.
Yes, we do.
So you guys have to be good, or else we're going to have to come down there.
I mean, we feel like we kind of help them solidify that relationship together.
And I'm so hopeful that we help them stay strong. I mean, the first year of marriage can be kind of tough, right, Lisa?
Yeah. It's tough. There's a lot of challenges.
Yeah.
And Carolyn, oh my God, the changes in Carolyn.
Oh my gosh. I love what you said. All of these women have challenged me, encouraged me, grown me, called me out on my shit. It is amazing. Oh, yeah.
Yep. And in a loving, kind way. Exactly.
Yeah. You are great.
Yep. All of you guys are.
Well, Shell.
So I hope that helps you, Shell. And if you want to reach out to any of these ladies, I'm sure they'd be willing to have a conversation with you about it.
Yep, absolutely. Shell, what we'll do is we're going to send you a link to schedule a little time with us to talk about it. And if you like, we could bring in one of the Foundations folks and they can tell you as well. So. Yeah.
And I can tell you, because we believe in this program as much as we do, the first month is $1.
$1.
So you try it for a month for $1. And if you're like, oh, nah, this isn't for me, no harm, no foul.
Yeah.
You spend $1. If you find that it's been great, then you stay in it. And it's still only $50 for all that we have to offer. So, it's a great program. So we would love to get on a chat with you and talk with you about that a little more and see exactly, where you're struggling and talk with you about our program a little deeper. And Lisa said her DMs are open. $1. How can you not do it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Carolyn said the same thing. You can DM her too.
Yeah.
So many of these ladies would be more than willing to tell you how this has changed their life.
Yeah. And we don't mean to pick on you, Shell. You said that. So we're saying to everybody who's watching this anytime.
Yes.
Reach out to anyone in the chat. Reach out to us. Kasia also is a member of Foundations.
Yep.
And I love how we can all say, fuck.
Except me.
Yes, you can.
Every once in a while, I'll say it. And then everyone laughs at me because I just don't swear very often.
It's so cute. Everybody's like, oh, Jennifer said a bad word. That's the best part of our day. Shell's got $1. Shell's got $1. Woo-hoo! All right, folks. We're going to go. It is time to free you for the evening. And Shell will be in touch.
Yes. And we'll talk the rest of enforcing boundaries.
Yes, next time.
All right.
All right, everybody. Love you.
Mwah.